Okay. And then you can explain to the audience for the many that don't know, and then we'll flow. And Jennifer, I also mentioned to everyone that just let it be a conversation. You don't have to wait for me to ask the question. If somebody says something and you want to jump on it, just jump on it. Okay. All right. I'm just going to spend the moment breathing.
Got this.
I'm starting the live stream process, but we're not quite live yet, just so you know.
Just give me a thumbs up or something. Okay. Well, it says that we're live, so I am going to assume that we are live. Hi, everyone. My name is Cassandra Powell. I am the Executive Director of Light of Loving Kindness. Thank you so much for joining us for One Breath Chicago. So to tell you a little bit about One Breath Chicago, One Breath Chicago is, you can call it our COVID response. There are so many things happening in our world right now, in the United States and in the whole global community and in Chicago. And in thinking about this, we wanted to put something together that would help people to be able to feel stable in our current environment, to be able to work through some of the fear, the anxiety, the depression that all of these things have brought. And as a response, this is One Breath Chicago. We are in partnership with Utopia Connect, and I will introduce you to Muriel Baptiste in just a moment. Light of Loving Kindness is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're located on the south side of Chicago, and our purpose is to provide access to hope, health, healing, and wholeness. So how do we do this? We do it through what we call holistic integrative solutions. That is using alternative, complementary, and integrative holistic solutions to help people with whatever they need at that moment. And so without further ado, let me introduce you to Muriel Baptiste from Utopia Connect.
Thank you, Cassandra, and it's a joy to be here and to have everyone else with us. The Utopia Connect Foundation is a 501c3 organization. We focus on community wellness. And this, as Cassandra mentioned, is a response to just what we're going through. This week has been a very troubled week for so many of us. And one of the things at Utopia we focus on is women and girls. So this is why this moment matters. Having this One Breath Chicago moment, please call up a friend, call up a woman who probably needs this in this moment. Invite her to be a part of this. Share this message with her. And let's all breathe together. It's so important to find the power of the breath during this time. So I look forward to this moment, and please join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Muriel. So just quickly, I will tell you that next week, we will have a panel, same time, Sunday at 3 p.m., called Your Breath and Self-Care. Following that, we have two additional panels. One is a men's panel, and it is called Your Breath and Anger Management. So when we say men's panel, we mean that they're all men on the panel, but of course, anyone and everyone is welcome to this panel. And then following that, we have a panel with all women on the panel, also called Your Breath and Anger Management. And that will be the last of this series. And then we will begin daily breath work, 3 p.m. every day on all of our platforms. So join us there. And also, if you can donate to help us to keep this program free, then please do so as well. Thank you so much. And now let me introduce you to our panelists. I'm going to start with Arin Otis. Arin is a yoga instructor who came to yoga, as she says, like many others, full of disease, autoimmune, ill, depressed, and making unhealthy choices for her life. She's been teaching yoga for about 5 years now, and she says teaching is her way of giving back to God. It is her dharma, her life's purpose. Arin's intention is to guide each person divinely placed on her path and to reach out to as many people as she can, to hold sacred space for them, and to honor the light in others, to nurture their spirits, and to teach peace. Thank you, Arin, for joining us. And next is Steve Rogne. Steve is the director of Zen Shiatsu Chicago, serving as director of education of the school and also the supervising therapist of the clinic. Shiatsu is a holistic touch therapy that explores how to recognize and support the innate healing potential that is always operative in each person. In his work, Steve explores how to communicate a sense of safety through touch, supporting resolution and self-healing for those experiencing the physiological effects of stress and trauma. Thank you for joining us, Steve. And finally, we have Jennifer Froemel. Jennifer is a holistic psychotherapist and the founder of Innovative Counseling Partners, LLC. Her practice is centered around the belief that mental health is not just brain wellness, but whole wellness. Jennifer and her team provide integrative mental health, trauma, and energy-based therapies with a passion for providing quality care for the masses. And Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. And Jennifer, since we're already talking to you, can you tell us, what does a holistic psychotherapist do?
That's a really good question. And I think a lot of times some of our clients are even wondering, like, what did I get into? A holistic therapist, psychotherapist, is someone who actually is looking through assessment of you as an individual as all aspects of your life. We talk about food, we talk about things you put on your body outside of putting in your body. And then we also address like the typical kind of therapeutic intervention of emotion and emotional regulation and what traumas you have encountered throughout your life. So our assessment is a longer assessment than most clinical therapists because of the fact that we're actually looking at all of these things as we're approaching what treatment needs you might in fact have.
Okay, it sounds like a complete integrative package.
Yes, yes, very much so.
Okay. Wow, well, thank you so much. And Arin, you're a yoga teacher. So can you tell us, do you have a specialty that you practice?
I kind of dabble into, again, like the whole being. And so I practice a little shamanism. I practice a little herbalism. And as of recently, I've been doing physical activity, like strength training, to sort of help with it all, processing it all. So I'm very much about feeling, and I was trained in a vinyasa kind of technique, and I sort of integrated a lot of my own feeling with it, my own needs with it. So I have some Qigong influence within my flow. It's a lot of hatha and yin and restorative and meditative, so that the opening meditation just really starts to flow and you start to move through your whole body.
Mm, wow. So it sounds like a personal flow,
Sort
right?
of. And it ends up being, you know, kind of what everybody needs to
Yes.
work through.
Wow. So each person develops their own personal flow through the
I think
practice.
so. It allows the individual practicing, whether if they're a beginner or you know, a many-year veteran practitioner, it sort of allows them to feel in the moment what they're feeling, what is coming up, what muscle is that's causing so much tension, or what emotion is triggered when I feel that.
I'm glad you mentioned that. We're going to come back to that. Yes, thank you very much, because breath work really is about being in the moment. You can't be somewhere else and do breath work. So thank you so much, Arin. And Steve, can you please tell our audience, for those who have not heard of Shiatsu, please share with us, what is Shiatsu?
Sure. Thanks, Cassandra. Shiatsu is a form of touch therapy. So it's like massage in that it feels great. It's really relaxing. And Shiatsu uses acupressure. So like with our touch, we treat the same points that an acupuncturist would treat. So we can help with those same health issues, like if people have problems with digestion or sleep or elimination. Similar theme of what we've been talking about, there is just like as in acupuncture, you can talk with us about all the range of things that can affect health, like the way that our emotions affect our health in certain ways, the way our diet and environmental factors affect our health. So that whole background of Chinese medical theory has that way of looking at the whole person in that way and taking all those things into account. And at our clinic, we have a clinic and a school, and we specialize in helping people who have chronic pain, autoimmune conditions, overwhelming emotional states like anxiety and depression. So yeah, Shiatsu has direct applications for all of those.
Wow. Okay, wonderful. Well, sounds like you're on the right panel too. So let's keep going, everyone. So let's start with a definition of one of the following. If perhaps everyone on the panel can choose one of these words and just give a short definition: stress, anxiety, depression, or trauma. And who would like to start?
I could jump into something about stress.
I could start.
Okay, well, we'll let Steve start with stress, and then Jennifer, which one do you choose?
I'll go after trauma.
And you'll go after trauma. So Arin, anxiety or depression. So I'm not looking for the textbook definition necessarily, because we can all go to dictionary.com and we can read it. But what is a definition that you can give that can help people understand? All right, Steve, it's on you.
Great. All right, so stress, we think about the strain, the tension that happens when we have really adverse, demanding circumstances. And I just really like to appreciate that difficult experiences really do take a toll on the body. So when we go through strong emotions, it literally can be hard on our organs. Like we get the feeling of stomach aches or headaches when we have stress. And walking around living with that kind of just that effect in our body isn't necessarily good for us. But because life can be demanding, sometimes our body kind of turns off those signals and we move through life anyway so that we can carry on. So when I talk about kind of relieving stress, it's how over the long term those things can lead to more advanced problems with digestion, sleep, and so forth. So that was what I wanted to just kind of put out there, that appreciation that stress really does have a meaningful impact on our body and health, and we experience strong emotions, challenging circumstances over a long time.
Would you say that the majority of people that you see that come into the clinic for Zen Shiatsu are experiencing stress or have experienced significant stress, especially over the last year?
Yeah, absolutely. Just pretty much across the board, to varying degrees, everyone's carrying it with us. So yeah, one of the big gifts I think we can give is just the chance, to literally be relieved of that stress and find something within us, something that actually feels good. The kind of, for the good news, our bodies are always bringing forward this sort of healthy sense of healthy resources, a healthy, strong response to the situation. And sometimes it just takes, just that chance to relax, remove the layers of stress, and just bring forward that way that we want to be, even in these challenging circumstances.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And Jennifer, trauma. How would you describe trauma or define trauma?
Okay, so trauma, I think for many people, a lot of people think automatically when they think of trauma, they think, someone who's been in battle, in war. The reality is trauma is different for each of us. And one of the pieces about trauma that is different for each of us is our own experience with something that overwhelms our system. So just like Steve was talking about stress on the body, the reality is that all of us are made of the same things, and all of us are filled with light and energy. And when our light and energy is negatively impacted, we end up sometimes find ourselves in a trauma state. And so a trauma state, many of the times for a lot of people, they can relate when I say something along the lines of, do you feel like that sense of like stifledness where your body just freezes and you feel like you can't move? Or I use the term deer in headlights, because people can imagine that an animal kind of like goes up and gets frozen. Many of us experience trauma in relationships with other humans on a regular basis, whether it's a demanding boss or a parental relationship or a relationship with a partner or even with our own children. Unresolved traumas live in our bodies through our polyvagal nerve, through our amygdala, and then in our body. And so when traumas exist, I like to relate to them sometimes as like an atomic cake. While an atomic cake is yummy, right? It's got one layer of chocolate, one layer of banana, one layer of white cake. It's messy because you push down on it to cut it open or to slice a piece, and it squishes everywhere unless you put sticks in it, right? And so when you don't put the sticks in it, and again, thinking of us as humans, we're just moving along in life and we're just trying to kind of make it through to the next day. So a lot of times we might have an unresolved trauma and then another trauma comes in way and we've not resolved the first one. And so then these layers kind of build upon each other. And that's, I think, where in terms of the therapeutic intervention, but these holistic methodologies really help us because we're tying the mind and the body together to be able to be aware in our light and our energy, what is impacting us and how it's impacting us. And we can also learn about how our physiology negatively can be impactful, but how breath and the way we think can actually completely bring things down to a status of or level that we can live and thrive and survive and not just feel like we're in constant fight or flight mode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's what I wrote on my note, flight or fight mode. And I can absolutely attest to it as well as a person who has been going through therapy, but in addition, using integrative modalities for PTSD. And I can say that utilizing my breath has been so tremendous for me in helping me to move through all of the many things that this brings. So yes, thank you so much. And Arin, so what did you choose?
Anxiety. I'm really good at that. Really good at that. worry, like excessive worry and thinking about the future. It's essentially living in the future. Why the breath is so vital to bring us back. Like, yep, all of those what ifs are absolutely possible. Every one of those things could happen, but that's not what's going on right now. Right now, we're here and we need to be here so that as those events take place, they're just events. They're just happening and moving through us. We can process and continue moving forward. And then I think I'm just going to jump right into depression. And I think depression is like when it gets real rough and you have so many days in a row, maybe, where you're kind of stuck in this. And I think depression is a lot of the past too. A lot of like sad memories or triggered memories or the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell other people about us, that we kind of live in. And that kind of persistent sadness, you know, creates like the loss of interest and the withdrawal. And I think that's important. And I'm going to read a little bit here because I made a note. I read an article in Psychology Today that was talking about depression actually being a tool, a positive tool that we can use for us, that bioanthropologists are arguing that depression is an adaptive response to adversity. And Jim Carrey talks about that too, is just depression being our disgust in our avatar and the need to grow, the need to change cycles and break patterns and go beyond.
Mm-hmm. And asking, thank you so much, Arin, because you took two on, and asking the panel, so do you feel that breath work can be beneficial for anxiety and depression as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Breath work in general, I think, both helps us let go of those physical patterns that are there, like when we have anxiety and we are constantly the brain, the thoughts are moving and everything is feeling excited in that way, or likewise when there's depression, whatever consistent emotion that's there is the chance to notice and let go on the one hand, meaning that we can notice, we can breathe into, we can release patterns that might be there, and also to find, even in those moments of anxiety and depression, I like to say sometimes that breathing is like a form of massage that you do for yourself. It's like, in the same way when we give shiatsu to someone might say, oh, I didn't even know I was tense there. It's this way of being touched helps your body recognize what's happening fully. And breathing is like that, but you can do it for yourself. It's like touching the body from the inside out. So being able to just fully recognize and appreciate what's happening is really the first step. And that includes a recognition of what's going right in the body, which I think is easy to lose sight of no matter what the circumstance. What healthy resources do we have? What in our body actually feels good? What in our body can help us in this situation? And often that, in my work, I mean, that kind of serves as a touchstone of, can we find and build that healthy inner resource as well, so that we can respond to life in the way that we're called to, whatever our inner wisdom is telling us that we want to move towards. Absolutely.
Yes. And let me just briefly add, for those that suffer from depression, I should also add, because I can hear people thinking it. I suffer from depression and there's no reason. Very often people, when they suffer from depression, you cannot necessarily pinpoint any one thing. And I think for many of us, it's one thing layered upon another, layered upon another. So perhaps you are stressed out about something. It can be a job, it can be a plethora of things. And then you start experiencing anxiety about the what ifs because we're not present. And then following that, the depression can hit. So and these can be triggered by a previous trauma. So very often these things come together. So I'd like to ask the panel, has anyone on the panel ever suffered from either of these conditions? And if so, would you mind sharing your experience with the audience? And tell us, how did mindful breath work help you to move through the symptoms of these conditions? So that's a long question. If you need me to repeat it, I will. But if not, whoever wants to take that one, please do.
Start.
Okay, Jennifer.
Yeah. I would say that for me, part of what drove me to decide to be a therapist actually was my own experience in counseling and therapy. I grew up in a household where there was domestic violence during my younger years. And my third grade counselor at the school pulled me in and started talking to me. And they had noticed that I would kind of stare off and look outside the window during the day and kind of get lost and not necessarily be present. And one of the things that was recommended by the counselor at school was that I talk with her about the things that are happening so I can let it out and not keep it internal. And what I ended up talking about was what was happening at home that I had no control over. And just by me speaking, I automatically felt relief to know that like it wasn't my job as a third grader to like fix what was happening in my home. She also talked to me about what I was feeling in my body. And we talked about like how I can feel better sometimes. And so we talked about a coping strategy of breathing. And then on top of the coping strategy of breathing, I also looked at how much I liked music, that when I listened to music and I danced, I was in my body and it felt free. And my body didn't feel entangled anymore with the things that were happening around me. And so those were the beginnings for me of the very little bit of, you know, where breath and body and why counseling I think works so well is because, I mean, you don't go to your medical doctor for your 15-minute checkup and you know, they get to hear all of the things that you're doing in that meeting. And then they go, oh, well, you should do this, this, and this. That's not how our Western medicine works. And so I feel so lucky with our clients to be able to fully look at all aspects of the self and give immediately some recommendations that can help alleviate some of what they're feeling, but give them hope and knowledge and knowing that these things too can be resolved and that they are the key at the center of it all.
Wow. So you said you were in the third grade?
Yes.
Wow. And it sounds like you're saying a person can have physical symptoms of a mental condition or something that is bothering them mentally, but it comes out as a physical condition. Would you say that is true?
Well, I know in my own case, after a while, you know, while the talking helped and the movement and the dance helped and my coping strategies, you know, the things that didn't happen at home that should have happened or improved, I had to learn new coping strategies because what started happening more and more was I started developing bronchitis on a pretty regular basis. And of course, what happens with bronchitis? It's an infection of your lungs, which is your difficulty then breathing.
Right.
So as that started to come up more and more for me, I started looking at what are some ways outside of antibiotics that can actually heal me and that I was then more capable of taking control of. And I ended up finding yoga, and I love yoga. I wanted to do my teacher training during this pandemic time, but I'm still doing my own yoga journey, but I will do my teacher training in the near future.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. And does anyone else on the panel want to answer that question as well? Have you ever suffered from any of these conditions? And if so, would you mind sharing your experience with the audience and tell us, how did mindful breath work help you to move through the symptoms?
Well, I'll share. I think I have been through every one of these things. Anxiety, depression, stress, all of it. Self-inflicted mostly, with bad decisions. So for me, it's been a lot about, seeking truth and getting right and living more righteously. And that sort of plays along with the shamanism and like the energy that you carry, the energies that you keep around you, your space, and cleansing that. And that's not only like on an energetic field, but that's talking about your memories. That's talking about your instinct, your experiences that you've been through. So it's a lot of like kind of subconscious cleansing of that energy field. But then it's about what you're eating and the minerals, the intake that you're getting in, where you're, it might be deficient or what you need to supplement. And then the herbalism comes into play and like cleaning up some of that gut, some of that, hippocampus crap that calcifies, the brain stuff. And so the herbs that work with that, and I've, just taken it to that holistic level where I'm like cleansing that out, those old patterns, those that subconscious really, and moving into more of an expanded higher vibration. So in dealing with the fight or flight and the PTSD, I'll just say that I got to a point of that third one that Jennifer had talked about earlier with the frozen and that like immobilization, that fight, flight, or immobilization, where I just get stuck. I just get freaking stuck in my emotion, and I had to do something about it. I heard the word jump audibly from a couple different sources, and I started working out. I started doing some strength training. I kind of babied myself for about 4 years around the trauma, and kind of nourished and nourished and nourished. I did a lot of solitude. I did a lot of fasting, and like that, the whole cleansing idea, the detox idea. And then I took a lot of care of myself, the qigong and the breath work and the meditation. And then recently I, was still feeling that immobilization part of it. And I had to push through. I had to go beyond and do something real uncomfortable. And so I started strength training and working out at the gym with a group of awesome individuals who are more like my family than anything right now. And I cry often, but it's about going deeper and getting into that stored, that stuffed trauma.
And Arin, how does breath work help you do that?
The breath, I wrote down 3 specific breath techniques, and the one is just alternate nostril. Back and forth. That alternate nostril is going to take you out of a panic state. It's going to take you out of that like real intense states to slow you down and get you into a deeper state of relaxation. That one has been huge for me.
So it helps with panic attacks, are you saying?
Yeah, with
it has helped you with panic attacks. Yes. Okay.
Absolutely. And that just to have that heightened kind of general anxiety, and that and needing to slow yourself down into a better state, but also rebirthing. Shamanism, they call it rebirthing. In yoga, we call it the breath of fire, which is a nostril breath again, but it's fast, it's rapid, tongue at the roof of your mouth. And that has been really helpful for me for those depressed states, for those states where you're just sluggish and uninterested and difficult to move.
Right.
And then just, sort of for that connection purpose, when you're just kind of disconnected or moving too much, working too much, just kind of stuffing again, not really letting life move through you, but kind of juking around it. That just deep, slow, connecting breath where you can like pay attention to the pauses in between the inhale and the exhale and really connect that mind gut, that vagus nerve.
Emotion. All right. And Arin is going to lead us in a breath work at the end. So yes, absolutely. Thank you, Arin. And Steve, can you talk about the impact of breath awareness in stressful moments? And by this, I mean, how is a person's breath different when they're stressed? Yeah, when they're stressed. Sounds like I was going to add something to that, but I'm not. How is a person's breath different when they're stressed?
Yeah, let me say something about that. And there's something that occurred while everyone was sharing about the conditions they've experienced, and certainly myself. This last year has been challenging like no other. Feeling at times like just things are ordinarily joyful in life are really challenging, and having to finding on the one hand being really grateful for these tools and resources that like the things that Arin is describing and similar practices in my own life. But working with my clients, I want to just make this point for the benefit of anyone who's listening. Because you asked the question, do you find that people who come in, like a lot of people are experiencing stress? And it's so, I mean, everyone is stressed. And I want to let people know that it is normal. That one thing I also hear is that people are feeling or carrying the stress and feeling guilty about it, or feeling like, is it only them? Are they the only ones who feel this way? That this kind of experience can be very isolating. So I just wanted to, just say that out loud for everyone's benefit, to know that it's, it is normal. There's tools, there's ways to move forward, and yeah, you're certainly not alone in it. And this thing of stress and how the body responds during stress, how the breath responds during stress. Generally speaking, in stress, we are in some way fixed in some sort of pattern. We're either in one sort of emotional state, or we're in some sort of constant state of action or activity.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's anything I'd say, there's not necessarily something common about everybody during stress, except that the breath actually does become fixed. And that's why it can become injurious to the body, is that when our body is just kind of going through the same groove over and over, moving in the same way, stuck in the same pattern, it's like if your tires are always being, wearing on just one side, and things get lopsided, it taxes the body in certain ways. And so the move out of that pattern of stress, it's really, can the breath just be spontaneous and natural? Can the breath actually just feel really good? That's actually where breath and shiatsu come together, is if we can get to that point where just breathing feels nourishing, free, relaxing, like the whole body breathes. When we're in a stressed position, parts of our body are kind of held and other parts are moving. Some parts are clutched over here while other parts are free to move. So as we leave stress, if the whole body can just all work together, that's one of the aims I look for as a shiatsu therapist. If by the end of the session, your whole body is breathing instead of just a part of it, and if that breathing feels really good to you, then I've done my job. That's what I'm trying to get to. And breath work done for yourself is that kind of conscious way of moving from fixed, compartmentalized breathing into whole body breathing.
Wow, that's really good. It's really important for us to notice too. I believe that sometimes we have so much stress, we're used to just feeling tight. We forget that we're not breathing until we get dizzy or something happens, or we feel this tightness in our stomach and we don't realize that we're not breathing. And like you said, it touches in many different areas. So Jennifer, in addition to talk therapy for a person who has undergone a trauma, or maybe that's suffering from stress or anxiety or depression, what might you recommend? And would you recommend breath work?
Definitely. I think honestly, within the first session, I jokingly tell my clients, like, okay, I'm going to be Bill Nye, the science guy, for just a little bit and explain to you the benefits of having oxygenated blood and why you can give yourself your own medicine. And I go into the whole thing about that the more oxygenation that the blood has, the more it can just do its job, and you can actually feel relaxed without needing to drink alcohol, smoke marijuana, or, you know, use other methodologies that damage the body or can damage the body. And it's not to say that, you know, everything can't be used in moderation. It's just simply to say, let's not use those methods if you can use your breath instead. So one of the first things that we do in integrative methodologies is to actually pay attention to the breath of our client in that first couple of sessions and recognize when they're doing like, you know, as they're talking things through and they're sounding very choppy in their breathing. So we will automatically start to talk about that. I know some trauma-based clinicians, specifically those supporting veterans, will say things like, oh, don't talk about, you know, learning how to do breath work. And because in reality, in real life, if they're in combat, what are they going to do? Just stop and breathe? And I'm like, well, no, not necessarily, but it's being able to pay attention to the awareness that you are breathing or that you're not breathing. Because a lot of clients that come in, that's one of the first things that we notice is they are talking. Where's the breath? I'm not hearing the breath. So I'll ask them, can you do me a favor? I want you just to take a couple of deep breaths with me. In through the nose, hold it up at the top full, and exhale through the mouth slowly. Some of my clients, especially my youth, I like to try like the lion's breathing, where you just look a little ridiculous. I make you stand up and then I make you push it out and get the tongue completely out of the mouth, you know, and we do it together. So it's kind of fun, you know, we're all silly together in that way, but they recognize like, wow, that really felt profound. Like that felt big. And I'm like, right, exactly. And you have the capacity to do it, whether you're with me or not, you know? So we definitely are talking about breath and breathing and recognizing when, sometimes I have them keep a breathing or a breath journal, you know? So when you got freaked out by that situation, what did you notice? Where were you holding? So I talk a lot too about the psychology of the chakras, you know, thinking about, you know, the crown of the head all the way down through your, you know, peritoneum. And when you find yourself holding anywhere along that line, that it's an indication that there's stress in there and you're holding. If you can breathe into that spot, just for a count of maybe 10 full breaths, 10 cycles, you might automatically find instantaneous release. And a lot of them are like, well, no, I think I should go to the hospital. So pranayama breathing, oh my goodness, teaching folks pranayama breath, it's like I'm potentially running into a trigger because so many people are like, I can't breathe that well through this side of my nostril. I can't, you know, hey, bring it on down. We're gonna be all right. Let's just practice again at regular breathing. And then let's just try some other ways to get you comfortable in that breath work. But recognizing that a lot of times breathing triggers traumas. And so as long as the client feels that like you are there to be with them, to bear witness with them and to support them, a lot of times, you know, I can just bring in pre-COVID times, I could bring in a nice cup of, you know, some green tea and just allow the person to like maybe smell some lavender oil and hold something warm, sip something warm, be present in the moment before we can get back into some breath work.
Wow. Beautiful. It sounds like being present and being in the moment is very important for breathing, for breath work.
Yes.
And once we are able to gather ourselves and find ourselves in the moment, then we can practice those inhales and exhales that help to calm us down and remind us that at the present moment, everything is okay, just at this moment. So
exactly.
Thank you so much. You all have shared so much wonderful information. I hate for it to end, but we have to. So let me ask my final question to everyone on the panel. And I'm going to ask you to take 3 minutes or less and give us one takeaway that you would like us to take with us from this workshop today, or else you can answer any one of the questions that we did not get to because we covered so much wonderful information today. So let me start 3 minutes or less, everyone, and then we will finish with Arin doing a short breath work practice with all of us. Okay, let's start with Steve.
Sure, thanks, Cassandra.
Mm-hmm.
I think really I wanted to just share my appreciation that for all of us at all times, I mean, even right now as we're just here in this moment, that what's always available to us is that ability. I make it a really simple question to just ask yourself, just pay attention to your whole body as a whole and ask yourself, where is there a place inside me that feels just great? Even when there's challenges going on, when you ask that question, does any part of your body that catches your attention, in answer to the question, and you can ask yourself louder if your body doesn't tell you loud enough the first time. Where is there a place that feels just great? Show me. And being able to feel and find in the moment that feeling of something that's working well, a healthy change, that's a resource that's available to us in that moment. That's really, the message I would kind of want to bring forward from a shiatsu perspective is there's always something. There's always something that the fact that we're all here, in the midst of adversity, that our bodies are functioning and moving us forward. I mean, it's just testament that is available to us, and as a method, in any given moment to tap into it, breathe into it, fill that good feeling area with breath, help it spread through the whole body. That's sort of a foundational thing that I've appreciated for myself, and maybe just to leave everyone with that for today.
All right. Thank you so much. And following Steve, Arin.
Takeaways. Get present. Even when the present isn't the best, your breath can take you somewhere else. I think it's really about being that present moment awareness, and gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude goes a long way. And when you are sitting there for a couple of seconds out of your day, whether it's in the garage, in the car, or in line at the grocery store, or while your kid is having a not so great conversation, whatever it is that you're doing, I think it's about just being present and taking those deep connected breaths, making sure that you've got the whole connection thing going on, that you're functioning on a holistic level. And gratitude. Gratitude for any little thing is going to change those patterns. It's going to change things up for you. And when you can get present and take those deep breaths and connect to something much bigger than the I, me theory, life is pretty good.
Wonderful.
It can be really good.
Thank you so much, Arin. And Jennifer.
So I have a couple of different pieces. I guess the first is for us to ask ourselves, are we human beings or are we human doings? Oftentimes, I think we're always in the doing. I think if anything, COVID has been able to bring us in some ways a gift of stopping all of the doing. And for a lot of people, that has brought them to a space that feels very uncomfortable because they've avoided themselves for so long because they've been doing. It is in the being that we are able to reach the light inside of us and then put that light out into the world to do whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing here. And when we are diagnosed with dis-ease, otherwise known as disease, that is a humongous red flag that we are receiving in that moment. Like, hey, you got to do something to shift this. Otherwise, your light can be extinguished. Pay attention and knowledge that in your breathing and in those moments, there's so much beauty and life that can be had, even when it's difficult. And the growth that we can bring to ourselves and then to those that we're with and to our own histories is immense and tremendous. And so going back to the gratitude comment, it is so important to be grateful for ourselves. And so many of us have avoided the self for so long, and we hide inside of all of these other things. And that getting into the breath leads to more and more gratitude and more awareness of the self. I like to always tell my clients and myself, I always say I practice what I preach before I sell it to my people.
Yes.
But I like to really look at if I'm getting a little bit heady, meaning I'm stuck in thought, that hamster wheel of hell. It's just squeaky and squeaky and it's going and going and going. I go, oh, I need to get back. I need to focus on my inner light in my mind and breathe. And as long as I can capture that in the moment, I can hear the squeaky thoughts, the leaky thoughts of worry and panic. And I can get back to the present moment and know, wait, am I safe? Do I need to flight? If the answer is no, then you're okay and breathe through it.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And for those of you who would like to read about scientific evidence on breath work, please go to our website, lightoflovingkindness.org or onebreathchicago.org. And we have a space called The Science of Healing, and read about all of the different articles from medical professionals and scientists about how breath work can help you with so many things. And if you're watching, but you did not register for today, please register as well, because you will receive a free gift as well that has to do with breath work. So thank you so much. And now we've got about 5 more minutes, and Arin is going to lead us through a breath work practice. Arin?
Thank you. Thank you. So from wherever you're at, kind of rock around a little bit, and maybe you need to stretch out, maybe for a minute. So do that. Get all the wiggles out. Get all the tension out. Take a twist or two.
Oh my.
You can do this from wherever you're at. So if you're seated on a chair, or you're on the ground, or you're on a pillow, wherever you're at, just kind of root down. Even if you're standing, root down. So it's either going to be those sit bones at your pelvic floor if you're seated, or maybe the bottoms of your feet. I love standing meditation, especially if there's a lot of pain involved. Standing meditation is going to help you become real aware of your body and your alignment. But from this position, wherever you are, kind of find yourself in a posture of integrity through your spine. You're stacking your hip joints on top of those sit bones, and then your ribs on top of your hips, and your shoulders on top of your ribs, your ears aligned with your shoulders, your chin maybe drop back just a little bit. A nice alignment through your spine. I like to say palms up to receive, palms down to maybe give away some energy, especially if you're real anxious. You touch your hands down onto the ground. If you're kind of seeking, if you need some guidance, you need some blessings, whatever you need, turn your palms up to receive. And just get real still and real quiet and settle in. The body and the mind is going to tell you, the ego, I think, is going to tell you that you're uncomfortable and your left nostril itches and your ears ringing and you need to move and wiggle around, but get quiet. Take a deep, deep breath in through the nose. And a big open mouth exhale. And use those first three real big breaths, those open mouth exhalations, to sort of settle yourself into your posture. And from there, if it's possible, bring the tongue to the roof of your mouth and go in and out of your nose. Bringing the breath in a little bit deeper, maybe a second or two deeper, filling up into more lung tissue on the in-breath. And pushing the breath out completely to that point of a little bit of a diaphragm contraction, the bottom of your rib cage. And inhale again. So sort of this big expansion happening on the in-breath. And this sort of release, a little bit of contraction. Push all the air out on the out breath. And as many times as your mind wants to wander off, or you hear distraction, or you feel sensation in your body, continue without judgment to bring yourself back to the attention on the breath coming in, that breath going out. The tongue on the roof of the mouth is going to help slow down some of the thoughts, some of the mental processes. It's just a good, deep, elongated breath. And if ever any bit of anxiety wants to try and bubble up, slow it down. Release it through the very next exhalation. And use that exhale and kind of push it all the way out, grounding you back into the earth and filling up again. Respiration by respiration, feel like the tissues starting to lose tension. The lines around your face, your expression lines, getting softer. Your jaw relaxing. Your shoulders. And letting any tension there, any stress built up there, roll down and off, away from your neck, off your shoulders. Those big, tough muscles on each side of your spine, feel them releasing. Again, grounding every exhale. Whatever bubbles up, let it go, breath by breath. Practice this as long as you need, but at least once or twice a day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Arin. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today for One Breath Chicago. Please like, share, subscribe, follow us. And if you can help us by donating, please do so at onebreathchicago.org or onebreathchicago.info. Help us to keep this program free. As we mentioned earlier, beginning in February, we are going to have daily breathwork practices for you at 3 p.m. every single day. So if you can volunteer, please do so at onebreathchicago.org. And if you can donate, do so as well. Next week, we have your breath and self-care. And then following that, we have your breath and anger management, a men's panel and a woman's panel. Thank you so much for joining us at One Breath Chicago. I'm Cassandra Powell with Light of Loving Kindness. Bye.